Welcome back, everybody. It's been a couple days since I've done a video, but welcome back. My name is Axel. I shall be your designated Inquirer for today, and it is 9/28 of 2020. You guys know when you're flipping around that 8-ball to see, like, you know, what's it gonna say? Right now it's like saying, like, come back later, like things are unclear. That kind of seems to be what I'm seeing from the market at the moment, because there are a lot of technicals that are kind of awash. It seems like they're waiting for something. The thing that's kind of arbitrarily out there as far as a piece of news is definitely whether or not stimulus is gonna pass. And while there have been dates and times where stimulus should have passed before, and that Congress should have done something, or that the president should have done something, or that the Senate should have done something, they haven't done it. Since March, when the stock market freaked out and everything was going downhill, that was the only time at the beginning that they saw where it was clear that there was so much uncertainty that it was basically only fear that was certain. That's when they did anything. With so much right now that has been politicized, with so much right now that has been gamified, that more or less people de facto are playing with people's lives, etc. The system is callous enough right now to not meaningfully make any progress, and yet the market believes that the people in charge have enough of a heart to do something for everybody else, which I don't think is the case. So the market, I believe, is being naive and waiting for some sort of stimulus deal to come forth in these next few days. Wednesday is the last day of the month, where we come into October the 1st. Coming to October the 1st, we're going to be hit with unemployment, people getting fired left and right from different places. Okay, PPP protections are done. Maybe some people may have been able to work out some sort of loan or something else extra or something like that, but the protections generally are done. There's going to be a lot of people looking for a job that can no longer hold a job because their business has not had any meaningful increase in demand, and yet they were told by government to hold on to them for basically 6 months, because they received this loan and or this grant. There are no more grants being given out. There's only a loan program available, and nobody is able to qualify for that loan program. And there's still nothing being done to be able to increase or decrease the requirements for that loan program, or for Congress to be able to tell the Fed and or the Treasury, hey, you can make loans where you can probably lose and not worry about it, where the people that borrowed money are not going to be punished, etc., because these are rough times. We understand, we're gonna just loan this money out regardless. That is not happening. That is not happening. That is not the sentiment on the ground in Congress. On the ground, that is definitely something that should be done 4 months ago. There's a lot of things that should have been done, but that are not getting done. There's a lot of things that should happen that are just not. So I believe right now the market is placing undue hope on Congress at the moment. Okay, September has been a wild ride, to say the least. There is, as far as the NASDAQ is concerned, because that's the one that I've been looking at, and that one that has been responsible for the largest rise and fall over a period of time. So let's go through the long-term charts here, and let's work our way down to the 2-hour and 5-minute and see where we're at. On the on the monthly, we are still looking at basically finally a slowing down of momentum to the upside. Okay, we still have not yet left oversold. Okay, that's pretty incredible. Okay, we got really close. We would have been there if we would have stayed near the lows of September, but we have not. So let's go to the weekly. On the weekly, looking over here, we went down. We're out of oversold, but the momentum has shifted. Okay, there's now a downward pressing momentum. All right, where before here the amount of momentum was a lot lower, and that it had a greater chance, an easier chance to get into negative momentum territory. Here we are a much higher momentum, positive momentum territory. Okay, so we can possibly be going sideways for a little bit here before this meaningfully turns down and we can see an oversold market. But as of right now, we have not seen oversold. Oversold. Right now we are still currently just recovering from being overbought. Back over here on the monthly, we were at overbought. Okay, sometimes I will misuse the term overbought and oversold, but generally they're kind of describing the same thing, only to one extreme or the other, because at every sale you do need a buyer. So when I say overbought, it is still technically being oversold by somebody, but to the upside, not to the downside. In any case, that's how it boils. That's what happens. All right, so now on the daily chart here, okay, we do see a meandering into the negative momentum. Okay, there is no closing yet of this gap, although these candles right here would have you think differently, that maybe it's possible for them to do that and for us to get a positive signal here. Okay, so from a momentum standpoint, from just the daily, it looks like this thing could turn around for at least a period of time. From the weekly, it does not. From the monthly, it does not. Not really. There's still a long way to go for us to be able to get out of this overbought territory. Now, moving on to the 4 hour here, we do have basically a little bit of positive movement here. Okay, we did have a buy signal as of like last week or so. That's fine. We're getting somewhat close to an overbought, but it could be the case that we just don't touch it, because we don't touch it, there isn't enough positive actual information to get us into overbought. But could we actually get there? Maybe. Out of spite, the bulls could probably take us into overbought territory before we decide to turn around and move lower, making this weekly chart basically more tenable, right? Or more of a likely outcome for this thing to bear fruit in terms of what can happen here. Now, if we go to the 2 hour here, okay, for the month of September, okay, we are now back at the point of control. Okay, it may have shifted down just slightly, okay, which is good for a continuation of movement lower, and possibly we can move down to here to press this a little further still. And should we get no results this Thursday, no stimulus, surprise surprise, we may be moving dramatically lower a lot quicker. Okay, it doesn't mean we don't have to end on the point of control. Okay, we could settle at a lower point of control. Okay, that can happen. Okay, last 2 times that we wandered over here, we did a double bottom. Okay, and we could crash through that bottom should we visit it again, and we don't have any stimulus coming this Thursday. Okay, that could all happen rather quickly. All right, or you know, people don't care whether or not we've got a stimulus. Somehow they see that maybe marginal economic improvement is okay, and the market continues moving upward, but off of information that is not necessarily indicative of substantial positive economic activity, considering also that the rest of the world is not seeing that whatsoever. We're shutting down in other places around the world because of a second wave of coronavirus. Could that happen here? I think it actually can. I think it can. I think it can come back with a vengeance, considering that we do not yet know definitively how well immune systems were able to hold on to antibodies all the way up until right now. If somebody got sick in March, can they get sick again? Is it like any other flu, or is it like chickenpox? More than likely, it's like the flu where you can get sick again. And even though we may have improved generally in terms of how we treat it, it is still deadly for a lot of people. And if we can get sick again, it also means that we can become again a vector for infection. We can infect still our loved ones if you have been sick. It can still happen. Just because you were sick at one point does not mean that you are immune. Okay, there has not been any definitive study, no definitive saying from any major health organization like the CDC, the World Health Organization, etc., that says that you cannot get sick. So could it happen here? Yes it can. And could it be worse? From what we're seeing in Europe, it could be. Okay? It could be. And so, just keep an eye out for all of that, because even if we do get some sort of stimulus, we do have to shut down the economy again, force a shutdown. Whether or not the stimulus that they pass, whether or not if it's good enough, will be the next question that people have to ask. Do we have to do more? Is whatever it is that they negotiate down to from the $4 trillion initial CARES Act that was passed, does it have to be re-upped, copy pasted basically into the future? Do we have to increase it still? All of those questions right now, we don't know, because we still need information in terms of like how big of a second wave are we going to get, or is it going to happen? Even though statistically speaking it looks like it could, we still don't know yet how bad and how big and how long it's going to be. Now jumping into the 5-minute here, what we do see today is that we did basically have a top. The market did move lower throughout the day. It did find an area of support where it more or less kind of it wandered even just a little bit lower, but maybe it wasn't definitive enough to tumble through, and so it just took it as an area of support, an area where buyers were stepping in. And right now we may have crested, and the market did go into an overbought situation, where this morning it was in an oversold off of the 5-minute. Okay, off of the 5-minute and 2-hour, a lot of things can happen rather quickly. Now we are in overbought on the NASDAQ at the close, at the open, and basically at the close. Okay, does that mean tomorrow we have to drop? No, but is the likelihood increased that we could drop? Yes. So keep that in mind as we move forward, okay? Because the last time that we were in overbought from here, we did move lower, okay? And the point at which we were at in terms of momentum was about the same height, okay? So there is not necessarily anything stopping us from being able to move lower, considering that we have reached an overbought condition. Let's take a look at Tesla real fast. TSLA. Right here, this one's kind of interesting because the whole time it's been consolidating, it more or less has been consolidating to this center point where it's basically at right now. Even though the point of control is higher, the direction of the consolidation seems to be about here, where it closed today. Now, can it meander just a little bit higher before it gets the sell signal to move lower? Possibly. Tomorrow we could see that it get an overbought signal and then move into correcting, getting a negative motion into negative momentum, and wander down to the lows of, or first be able to move past this level here at 351. All this could happen, okay, for later this week. All right, right now Tesla is in a precarious position. It was underperforming the market today because at the open today of NQ, if we do look at it, let's look back and look at it /NQ. Okay, today we did get basically a green day off of throughout the day. Okay, we ended up above the open and above where we were on Friday. Right now for Tesla, even though we did get an above Friday point, we did not close high on the day. We were basically down, and even though we were up, we were negative. It was on lower volume. So up here there's less volume being executed than down below where we had more volume being executed. Okay, so it could run further up where there was more volume being executed, but more than likely I think we do turn around here. I think that could be the case. I think that might be the case, considering where the Nasdaq is and being able to pivot back around, and what we've been seeing so far on how the Nasdaq acted and how Tesla is acting right now. It does not need to get into overbought for it to actually turn around. Could, but it is not necessary. Now let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick. Or, you know what? We're going to take a look at TXY. We're going to take a look at the dollar, see what it did. Now, what it may be doing here is, come on, there you go. Okay, it may be channeling upward. Okay. Maybe channeling upward. All right, so this may be going sideways, but maybe going at a slope going upward. It may not just go to 100 within a few days, even though early on right here it did seem like that was going to happen. It's probably not. It's probably is going to take its time making its way over to these higher levels here. Okay, how fast it'll actually get there, it may be faster than this point right here. It might not be. Okay, as of right now, the points here in terms of this is the 30-day, this is the 50-day. Below the 50-day, we were starting to see some buyers come in. Okay, so whether or not it does stay down here and or we see it open above the 50-day will kind of tell us whether or not there are plenty of buyers below the 50-day moving average, in which case this could be a increasing faster than the channel I previously drew. It could be going that quickly. You know, the angle, the difference here would be, you know, like a good 20 degrees in how vertical of a rise the dollar sees. The thing that's kind of interesting though is that when we see for SGC, which is gold managed to see a rise today off of the dollar not doing so much, even though the dollar did kind of hold levels here. This move to the downside was enough for the dollar to see an upside movement, because today the dollar did see a downward movement of 0.039 from the previous closes. Not that much, but gold did see an outsized movement. GC saw a movement up of $19 or a whole percentage point. Okay, here is still just a little bit above its channeling motion right here, so it did make a small break, but can it hold it considering the pressures on the dollar and bonds? I'm thinking probably not. So this was, like the rest of the market, a false rally trying to chase hopes and dreams that a stimulus package can be passed. The same thing is kind of happening on Bitcoin. Okay, here we do see that the point of control here is lower. Can it fall from these heights? I think it can. Can it wander back down into the low 9,000s? I think it can. So look out below, you guys, because you know we can very easily wander back to the point of control. Okay, that can happen, and if the markets do act with any sort of reason, we should see bonds still continue a little higher, depending on how and to what extent the Fed acts, and the dollar to move higher as well. Bond prices like the TLT, we should be seeing, it has been consolidating for a good long while now. We'll see if we do start to break away from this consolidation, whether or not to the downside or to the upside, even though right now we should be seeing some sort of breakout to the upside. But we have been consolidating, and the amount of volatility in this consolidation has been decreasing in the bond market. So we are seeing, to use a different phrase, is an amount of coiling. Okay. The VIX did move down from basically being able to hit 30 pretty quickly. It has moved down from those levels down to about 26. What is interesting though is that the VIX has been able to hit, if we take a look at it here, the VIX has been able to hit 25 before somewhat regularly. Okay, now it's kind of hanging around at the low 26. Okay, but if we're looking at a period of time over here, what we do see here is that the lows that it can reach are getting higher. These are higher lows. Okay, so there could be some movement still further to the upside, whether that's going to be an onset from the election, whether or not it's going to be an onset from the lack of stimulus. There's a lot of different reasons why the VIX can potentially move higher. If we do see a VIX, if you do see stimulus though, that would more than likely present a reason for it to go down. But we would have to see stimulus be passed by not just the House, not just the Senate. It would also have to be signed by the President. So it's a long process to get a bill passed. So if it passes the House, that is nothing to get excited about. Once it passes the Senate, then it can move quickly to the White House, and that can be signed by the President. Okay, so yeah, that's our market day today. Those have been our indicators, our assets that we are currently watching to give us somewhat of a direction of where the market is going. If you guys do have any questions, do feel free to ask me through the comments. Personally, I do have an Instagram, I have a TikTok, I've got a Facebook, a lot of different ways in which you can contact me down below in the details of this video, as always. And I also do have an eBay store where I do sell some rather interesting collection of things. Right now I did send a bunch of cards to get graded by PSA, so when those do come back, which will be a while from now, I will be sharing what those are. Anyway, till next time, I hope you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah, take care. Bye.